The sun had just begun to dip behind the buildings, casting long shadows across the city streets. Lila walked along the sidewalk, her bag slung over one shoulder, feeling the weight of the day in her tired legs. She had finished her shift at the small cafe where she worked, the one tucked between a bookstore and a corner bakery, and she was looking forward to getting home. Her thoughts were scattered between what she needed to cook for dinner, the bills she had to pay, and how she could finally save enough for college. Life was never easy, but Lila had learned to keep moving forward no matter what. The streets were unusually quiet that evening, the kind of quiet that made every small sound seem louder. The distant hum of cars on the main road and the occasional bark of a dog echoed softly. Lila pulled her coat tighter around her as a cool breeze swept through the empty streets. She tried to ignore the uneasy feeling crawling in her chest, telling herself it was just the wind playing tricks on her. But deep down, she knew the city had a way of changing in a single instant, and not always for the better. As she walked past the closed shops, she noticed a group of motorcycles parked along the side of the road. At first, she thought they were just a bunch of bikers stopping for a break, but then she saw the riders swing off their bikes, the engines still rumbling, and something about the way they moved made her stomach tighten. They weren't just stopping, they were watching her. Her pace quickened instinctively. Lila clutched her bag strap tighter and tried to ignore them, hoping they would just leave. But the bikers were persistent. They started riding slowly alongside her, shouting words she couldn't quite make out at first. The sound of their motorcycles echoed off the buildings, making the quiet street feel even more menacing. Her heart raced and she felt a lump form in her throat. She tried to keep calm, telling herself she had handled difficult situations before, but this felt different. One of the bikers slowed down and pointed at her, a smirk on his face. "Hey girl, where are you going all alone?" he shouted, his voice carrying more arrogance than humor. Lila's stomach dropped. She tried to step off the sidewalk and walk faster, but the group followed, circling her, surrounding her in a way that made her feel trapped. Panic began to rise in her chest, hot and heavy, and she felt a cold sweat break on her forehead. She considered turning back, running toward a busier street, but the bikers anticipated her move. They blocked the small alley she had considered taking as a shortcut. Her mind raced, trying to think of what to do next. She remembered her self-defense class from years ago, the few lessons she had taken at the community center. But fear made her movements slow, and the bikers were already closing in. Lila felt her world shrink to just those few meters between her and the motorcycles. The leader of the group, a tall man with a leather jacket and a chain hanging from his belt, stepped in front of her. His eyes were sharp, scanning her as if trying to intimidate her with a single glance. "Don't be scared, little girl," he sneered, his voice low and mocking. "We're just having some fun." Lila's stomach churned. She knew that fun meant trouble. She knew that fun meant danger. She wanted to scream, to call for help, but the quiet street swallowed her voice before it could leave her lips. Her thoughts went back to her family, to her younger brother waiting for her at home, and to her mother who always worried too much. She imagined the panic on their faces if something happened to her. That fear gave her strength even as her legs shook beneath her. She took a deep breath and tried to step sideways, hoping to find an opening. Any opening that could get her out of this nightmare. Meanwhile, someone else was noticing everything. A man had been following the bikers from a safe distance. He wasn't there to cause trouble, and he wasn't going to confront them without knowing the risks. But he could see everything. The way the bikers were circling her, the way she was trying to escape, the fear that was visible in every part of her posture. He knew that things could escalate in seconds, and he had to be ready. Lila didn't know he was there. She was too focused on the immediate danger in front of her. One of the bikers reached out, trying to grab her bag. She pulled back instinctively, her heart pounding, her mind screaming for a way out. The leather of his glove brushed against her arm, and a jolt of terror ran through her. She had never felt so small, so powerless, and yet there was a part of her that refused to give up. She refused to let them win. The wind picked up again, and the roar of the motorcycles seemed louder now, louder than the hum of the city itself. Lila's eyes darted around, looking for anything, a person, a car, even a stray dog, that could serve as a distraction. She noticed a streetlight flickering above, its weak light creating shadows that danced across the pavement. She tried to use those shadows to her advantage, hoping they would confuse the bikers just enough for her to slip past them. The bikers laughed at her attempts to escape. Their laughter was cruel, loud, and mocking. It filled the empty street, making her feel even more isolated. Lila's throat tightened and she forced herself to keep walking. Each step deliberate, each breath measured. She reminded herself that she had survived tough days before, that she could survive this too. Fear was a heavy weight, but courage sometimes came in the smallest moments. As the bikers closed in again, the man following them made his decision. He wasn't going to wait for things to get worse. He knew that Lila's chances of escaping on her own were slim, and the bikers were growing bolder by the second. His presence was still hidden, his identity unknown to the girl, but his determination was firm. He would step in when the time was right, and when he did, he would make sure she was safe. For Lila, though, it still felt like she was alone. Her thoughts raced between hope and despair. Between the urge to fight and the urge to run, she reminded herself of every story she had heard of people who had faced danger and survived. And she told herself that maybe, just maybe, she would become one of those stories too. She held her bag tightly, her knuckles white, her body tense, ready to react to anything. The bikers were closing the circle, moving faster now, their movements aggressive, their intent clear. Lila's heart pounded in her chest like a drum, each beat echoing in her ears. She felt sweat running down her back, and yet, amidst the fear, there was a spark of determination. She refused to let them break her spirit. She refused to let this moment define her. And then, as if by instinct, she noticed a slight movement from behind the bikers, a shadow that didn't belong to them, a presence that seemed to be following every step. Her eyes flicked toward it for a brief second, but she couldn't tell who it was. All she knew was that someone was there, someone who might help. But the bikers were too close, their attention solely on her, their faces twisted with malice. There was no time to hope just yet. Lila's mind raced with possibilities. She could run straight, hoping for a nearby store or a streetlight. She could try to reason with them, though she knew that words might not be enough. She could scream, though the emptiness of the street might swallow her voice. And yet, she kept moving, each step a tiny act of defiance against the fear that threatened to consume her. The leader of the bikers moved closer, his hand raised, ready to strike, ready to intimidate. Lila's eyes widened and her body tensed, ready for whatever came next. She didn't know that the person following the bikers had already made a plan, a way to intervene without causing unnecessary harm, but ensuring her safety. The street seemed to hold its breath, the quiet city waiting for what would happen next, as Lila braced herself for a confrontation that could change everything. And in that moment, with the shadows stretching long and the engines rumbling like distant thunder, Lila realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was the decision to keep moving forward even when fear gripped every part of you, and she kept moving step by step, unaware that her story was about to intersect with someone who would change everything. The bikers weren't just following Lila, they were circling her like predators. Their motorcycles rumbled in a low, menacing rhythm, echoing off the buildings on either side of the narrow street. Lila's heart raced uncontrollably. Each time she thought she saw a way to escape, one of them would block it, forcing her to change direction again. The streetlights flickered above, casting uneven shadows that made everything feel even more chaotic. Her hands gripped the strap of her bag so tightly that her knuckles hurt, but she couldn't let go. Not now. She tried to steady her breathing, reminding herself to stay calm. Panic was like quicksand, it could trap you if you let it. But calm didn't come easily. The bikers shouted insults at her, mocking her, trying to make her feel small. "Hey, little girl, scared of us?" one yelled, his voice rough and loud. "Don't worry, we'll make it fun." The laughter from the group was cruel, filling the empty street like a wave that pushed her back as if trying to crush her resolve. Lila's mind raced for solutions. She considered running into the alleys, trying to find a more crowded street, anything to escape. But every alley seemed blocked or too dark. Her options were shrinking fast, and the bikers were aware of it. One of them, taller than the rest, moved closer, his leather jacket rustling as he approached. He leaned toward her, and for a moment Lila felt paralyzed. Every instinct screamed at her to fight or run, but the fear was overwhelming. And then she felt it, the awareness that someone was watching. At first it was just a vague feeling like a shadow in her mind. But as she moved, she noticed it again. A presence just behind the bikers. Someone was following them, keeping a safe distance yet not missing a single detail. Lila's eyes flicked toward the movement, but the dim streetlight and the bikers' blocking positions made it impossible to see clearly. All she knew was that she wasn't entirely alone, and that tiny thought gave her a flicker of hope. The bikers, sensing her hesitation, laughed even louder. One of them reached for her bag, trying to grab it. Lila yanked back instinctively, her heart jumping into her throat. The leather of his glove scraped against her arm, and the sting made her wince. The bag swung wildly, almost hitting her legs, and she barely caught it. The attack wasn't just physical. It was a test of her confidence, of her willingness to stand her ground. Lila refused to let them see her trembling. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Her eyes darted around, looking for anything to give her an advantage. A parked car could serve as a barrier. A trash can could slow them down. Even a stray dog, she thought, could create a distraction. But the street was almost deserted, and every potential escape route was either blocked or too far. She realized that she had to rely on her instincts and quick thinking. Fear was strong, but she had to let determination be stronger. The tall biker, clearly the leader, noticed her hesitation. "Don't just stand there," he taunted. "Move for us." Lila took a step backward, careful not to provoke him further. Each movement was calculated, each breath controlled. Her entire body was tense, ready to react, yet trying not to make a wrong move that could provoke an attack. Her mind kept running through scenarios, weighing her chances, searching for a miracle. Meanwhile, the man following the bikers, still unseen by Lila, was analyzing the situation. Every movement of the gang was predictable in its unpredictability. They were cocky, sure of their power in the quiet street, yet reckless enough to make mistakes. The man noted their spacing, their gestures, the way they approached Lila. He knew that timing would be everything. A single misstep could escalate into violence. But he also knew that he could protect her if he acted smartly. Lila's thoughts drifted briefly to her family. She imagined her younger brother curled up at home, wondering why she was late. She imagined her mother pacing, her worry visible in every movement. That image sparked something fierce in her, a mix of fear and courage. She couldn't fail. She wouldn't let this situation define her life. She reminded herself that fear could be a tool if she let it sharpen her awareness instead of paralyzing her. The bikers weren't giving her time to think. They moved in a coordinated manner, cutting off any escape she attempted. One of them even tried to block her path by standing directly in front of her, arms crossed and smirking. Lila's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay alert, to observe their movements carefully. She noticed how they communicated with gestures, how they expected her to react to their intimidation. It was almost like a dangerous game, and she had to survive it. A sudden roar from one of the motorcycles startled her, and she stumbled slightly. The group laughed at her, enjoying the fear they had instilled. But at that moment, the unseen observer behind them made his move. He shifted closer, keeping his distance but positioning himself to intervene if the bikers became violent. Lila, unaware of his presence, continued to focus entirely on surviving. Every footstep, every glance, every breath was measured and deliberate. One of the bikers reached out again, trying to grab her shoulder this time. Lila spun away just in time, feeling the leather scrape past her coat. She almost fell, but she caught herself, her legs shaking. "Stop!" She wanted to yell, but the words didn't come out. The fear was strong, but the determination was stronger. She realized that running blindly could be dangerous. She had to think even under pressure and look for any sign of help, even if it didn't seem possible. The tall biker laughed, clearly enjoying the chase. "You can't hide," he said. "You're stuck here with us." Lila's chest tightened at his words. She knew he believed it. She could feel their confidence in the silence between their shouts. It was like a challenge, a test of who would break first. She took a deep breath, grounding herself, reminding herself that fear alone couldn't win this. And then she noticed it, the subtle shift in the biker's formation. A small gap had opened, just enough for her to make a move. Her instinct screamed at her to take it. She stepped toward the opening cautiously but determined. Her heart was a drum in her chest, each beat urging her forward. She moved quickly but carefully, hoping that the bikers wouldn't react fast enough to stop her. At the same time, the man following the bikers adjusted his position. He stayed hidden but was ready to act if the bikers tried anything more dangerous. He had watched enough street altercations to know that timing and presence mattered more than sheer force. He wasn't going to let this end badly for the girl, and he knew he had to be prepared for any sudden escalation. Lila's mind raced as she navigated the narrow space. Every step felt like a victory, every breath a defiance. She was determined not to let panic control her. She realized that fear was temporary, but courage, real courage, was about facing danger even when the odds were stacked against you. The bikers may have had numbers, loud voices, and intimidating appearances, but she had awareness, quick thinking, and determination. The leader of the bikers noticed her movement and cursed under his breath. "She's trying to slip past us," he shouted. The others reacted, moving to block her, but it was too late. Lila had already taken the first few critical steps toward safety. Her movements were quick and calculated, and she could feel the gap between her and the bikers widening just enough to give her hope. Her eyes darted around again, searching for any source of light or any sign of a safe place. A corner store's neon sign flickered in the distance, a small beacon of hope. She headed toward it, keeping her back straight and her steps steady. The bikers noticed and moved to intercept, but her earlier observation of their patterns gave her a slight advantage. She adjusted her pace and direction, slipping past the first biker, then the second, and finally the third. It was a small victory, but a crucial one. The bikers were frustrated, shouting at her, but their confidence was wavering. Lila felt a surge of relief, though she didn't let it show. She knew this wasn't over, and she couldn't afford to celebrate yet. Every step mattered. Every decision could make the difference between safety and danger. And through it all, she still didn't know that someone was watching closely. Someone ready to intervene if things turned violent. That knowledge, even if she didn't have it, was about to change everything. But for now, she moved carefully, step by step, toward the faint glow of safety ahead, determined to survive the night. The street felt heavier now, darker in a way that made every sound sharper. Lila's steps echoed as she hurried, her bag bouncing against her hip. The bikers weren't letting up. They circled her like wolves, roaring their engines, laughing and shouting insults. Her heart pounded so fast she felt it in her throat. Every nerve in her body screamed for her to run faster, yet she had to be careful. One wrong move and the bikers could corner her completely. She could feel the sweat running down her back, sticking her shirt to her skin. Her legs were tired, but adrenaline pushed her forward. The narrow streets were a maze, and she moved as quickly as she could, twisting around corners, ducking behind trash bins, and using the shadows to her advantage. Every step was calculated, every glance measured. She had learned to survive, to keep her mind alert in moments like these, and that instinct was her only ally now. Unseen by her, someone had been following the bikers closely. A man, quiet and deliberate, was tracking their movements, analyzing their behavior. He could see how they circled her, how they anticipated her every move, how reckless they were becoming. He knew that it wouldn't take much for things to escalate, and he had to stay hidden while preparing to step in at the perfect moment. Every second counted. The bikers were growing impatient. Their laughter had changed, losing its earlier lightness and becoming darker, more threatening. One of them revved his engine, the sound loud and aggressive echoing down the street. Lila jumped at the noise, her pulse spiking, and she felt the leader moving closer again. His leather jacket seemed to blend with the shadows as he stepped into her path. "Where do you think you're going?" He sneered, his voice low and dangerous. Lila didn't answer. She didn't have time to. Instead, she took a deep, steadying breath and kept moving. She needed to stay calm, to think, to look for any opening. Her eyes darted around the street, scanning for anything that could help her. A door to a building, a streetlight, a car parked carelessly that could act as a barrier. The world seemed to shrink to the space between her and the bikers, the narrow sidewalk, the dark alleyways, and the faint glow of a store in the distance. The bikers tried to anticipate her every move, but Lila's determination was stronger than their confidence. She had faced fear before, though never like this. Every step she took was careful but firm. Her body was tense, ready to react, yet she refused to let panic take control. The leader lunged forward suddenly, trying to grab her arm, but she twisted just in time. The leather of his glove scraped her coat, and a shiver ran through her body, but she didn't fall. She kept moving. The man following the bikers adjusted his position. He stayed hidden but was now closer, keeping track of every move the bikers made, ready to intervene if they tried anything more aggressive. He could see that Lila was aware, alert, and strong, but he also knew that her courage wasn't enough to guarantee her safety alone. He had to act carefully, without alarming the bikers too soon. Timing was everything. Lila's mind raced. She thought about what she had learned in her self-defense classes, about staying calm under pressure, about creating opportunities to escape. She remembered the stories of people who had faced danger and survived by staying alert and thinking quickly. Those memories gave her strength. She knew she couldn't stop moving, couldn't let the bikers predict her next step. Every decision she made could mean the difference between safety and harm. One of the bikers, frustrated, revved his engine even louder and gestured aggressively. "Stop moving," he shouted. "You're only making it worse." Lila ignored him, focusing on a faint light up ahead. She could see the glow of a small corner store, the kind of place that stayed open late with a cashier who didn't ask many questions. It wasn't perfect, but it was a safe point to aim for. Her steps quickened, careful but urgent. The leader noticed her heading toward the store and cursed. "She's trying to escape," he barked, motioning to the others. They tried to block her path, moving quickly to surround her, but she had anticipated this. Lila veered slightly, using the shadows and the narrow gaps between parked cars to slip past the first biker. She moved fast, her body tense but controlled, adrenaline fueling her courage. The biker's frustration grew. One tried to grab her from the side, but she ducked instinctively, her bag swinging safely to her other side. The leader swore loudly, but Lila kept moving, her focus on the light ahead. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Every second she spent hesitating increased the risk. She had to trust her instincts and the small openings she noticed. Meanwhile, the man following the bikers had started moving closer, positioning himself strategically. He wasn't ready to reveal himself yet, but he was preparing for the moment when he would have to step in. He noticed how the bikers moved together, their predictable aggression, their overconfidence in a quiet street. He could wait no longer if they escalated. Timing was critical. He had to protect the girl without putting her in more danger. Lila's breathing was fast but controlled. She felt a small surge of hope as she approached the store. The flickering neon sign above the door seemed brighter now, almost like a beacon. She adjusted her pace carefully, staying alert, ready to react if the bikers tried to block her again. Her mind raced with strategies. A sudden sprint, slipping behind a parked car, drawing attention to make them hesitate. Every instinct she had learned over the years was guiding her now. The bikers, sensing her determination, grew more reckless. They circled closer, engines roaring, shadows moving aggressively in her peripheral vision. One of them swung his arm toward her, trying to grab her shoulder, but Lila twisted her body just in time. The scrape of leather against fabric made her flinch, but she kept going. She refused to give them a moment of satisfaction. Her mind was sharp, her senses alive with the intensity of the moment, and then, just as the tension reached its peak, she felt something shift in the air. A sudden presence, calm but commanding, emerged from behind the bikers. She didn't notice it yet, but the bikers did. They hesitated for a split second, their confident expressions faltering. That pause was enough for her to take another critical step toward safety, moving past the first two bikers and toward the faint light of the store. The leader cursed under his breath, frustration clear in his voice. "Who's that?" he demanded, looking over his shoulder. But the man behind them didn't answer. His presence alone was enough to make the bikers wary. He moved with a quiet authority, his eyes locked on the group, ready to act if necessary. Lila remained unaware, but she felt safer somehow, even without knowing why. Her steps quickened as she neared the store entrance. The glow of the neon sign reflected in her eyes, a small comforting light in the darkness. She could hear the bikers shouting behind her, but their confidence was wavering. The sudden shift in the situation made them uncertain. For the first time, she realized that maybe she wasn't completely alone, that maybe help was closer than she thought. The man behind the bikers continued to approach cautiously, ensuring that he could intervene without causing more danger. He analyzed their every movement, predicting their next steps. He could see that Lila's determination and quick thinking were already giving her an advantage, but he couldn't let them get reckless. His timing had to be perfect. Lila pushed forward, each step a mix of fear and courage. Her heart pounded, her legs were sore, and yet she refused to stop. She was determined not to let the bikers win. She could feel the tension in the street thickening with every passing second. The bikers were loud, aggressive, but uncertain now. That uncertainty was her chance. The neon sign above the store glowed brighter as she approached. She could see the door now, and the faint outline of a person inside, probably the cashier. It was just enough to make her feel that safety was within reach. She adjusted her pace, keeping her movement steady, calculated, ready to push forward at the right moment. And as she stepped closer to the store, the unseen man finally made his move, not with aggression but with control, positioning himself to protect her if the bikers tried anything more dangerous. His presence, calm yet commanding, shifted the balance. The bikers noticed him and faltered, their bravado beginning to crack. For Lila, the moment was tense but filled with hope. She didn't know who was behind the bikers, but she felt that things were changing. Step by step, she moved toward safety, toward the glow of the neon light, determined to survive. Every step was a small victory, every breath a defiance of fear, and every movement a testament to her courage. The street felt alive with tension, every shadow seeming to stretch longer and darker. As the bikers realized something had changed, they had been confident, roaring down the quiet roads, mocking Lila and thinking she was easy prey. But now their movements had slowed, their smirks replaced by hesitation. Someone had appeared behind them, a presence so commanding that it didn't need to yell to make them pause. Lila didn't know who it was. She didn't notice the tall figure standing just a few steps behind the bikers, his posture calm but unyielding. All she could feel was the slight shift in the air, the sudden change in the bikers' behavior. Her pulse was still fast, but for the first time that evening, she allowed herself a fraction of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't have to face them alone. The leader of the bikers snarled, looking over his shoulder. "Who's there?" he demanded, his voice trembling slightly, betraying his confidence. The others circled closer, engines rumbling nervously, their aggression faltering. The presence behind them was enough to make even the boldest hesitate. Lila kept moving toward the faint glow of the corner store, her steps cautious but determined, her focus on survival. Then he stepped forward. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. His mere appearance was enough. Tall, broad, and unmistakable, the man carried an aura of authority that seemed to fill the empty street. "Back off," he said, his voice steady and calm, yet carrying a weight that left no room for argument. The bikers froze. They had underestimated him, just as they had underestimated Lila's courage, and now their confidence began to crumble. Lila slowed slightly, watching from a distance as the scene unfolded. Her chest still heaved with adrenaline, but she felt safer. Someone was taking control, someone strong and fearless. She couldn't believe her luck. Just moments ago, she had thought the night would end in fear, maybe worse. Now there was a chance to escape, to leave the danger behind, and it all depended on the presence of this stranger. The bikers looked at each other, uncertainty creeping into their expressions. They had come expecting to intimidate, to provoke fear, to assert control, but now the tables had turned. The man didn't just stand there. He moved with purpose, closing the distance between himself and the bikers. Every step he took was deliberate, controlled, and yet filled with the promise that no harm would come to the girl under his watch. "Step aside," he said again, this time slightly firmer. His eyes locked on the leader of the gang, unwavering and firm. The leader's bravado faltered. He had faced many situations in the streets before, but something about this man made him pause, made him reconsider his actions. For the first time that evening, the bikers realized they might have gone too far. Lila continued her careful approach to the store. The neon light above the door glowed brighter, welcoming her, giving her direction. Her heart still raced, but it was no longer paralyzing. She could breathe a little easier now, knowing that she had help, even if she didn't fully understand who was intervening. Every step she took toward safety was a testament to her determination, to her refusal to give in to fear. The leader finally spoke, his voice shaking slightly. "We didn't mean," he began, but the man didn't give him a chance to finish. His gaze was unwavering, his presence commanding, and his voice cut through the tension effortlessly. "You've made a mistake," he said simply. "Leave now or face the consequences." There was no threat in his tone, no anger, only certainty. And certainty was enough to make the bikers hesitate. The others in the group looked at their leader, uncertain. They had been cocky, aggressive, believing they controlled the situation. Now they were unsure, and hesitation can be dangerous in moments like this. The man didn't move recklessly. He didn't need to. His calm, unyielding stance was enough to shift the balance of power. Lila watched, amazed, as the biker's confidence began to crack. One of the bikers tried to recover his composure, revving his engine in an attempt to intimidate. But the man didn't flinch. His eyes remained locked on the group, his posture steady and unwavering. I said back off, he repeated, this time even more firmly. There was no doubt, no hesitation, only authority. The roar of the engines faded slightly as the bikers realized they were no longer in control. Lila's legs were still trembling from the adrenaline, but she felt a sense of relief wash over her. She knew that as long as this man stayed, she was safe. She could feel the shift in the energy around her. The danger that had been so palpable just moments ago was starting to dissipate. The bikers were faltering, unsure of what to do, unsure of how to challenge someone who radiated confidence and strength. The leader finally made a decision. He gestured to his group, muttering curses under his breath. "Let's go," he said reluctantly. The others hesitated, but the certainty in the man's eyes and the calm authority in his voice left no room for argument. One by one, the bikers mounted their motorcycles, engines rumbling, but their bravado was gone. They left the street slowly, their confidence replaced by uncertainty and unease. Lila exhaled deeply, her body finally allowing herself a moment to relax. She had survived. She had faced fear, terror even, and come out unscathed, thanks in large part to the unexpected presence that had intervened. Her legs shook as she approached the man, still cautious, still processing what had just happened. He had not only protected her but had done so in a way that commanded respect, without unnecessary force or violence. "You're safe now," he said, his voice gentle but firm. Lila nodded, too overwhelmed to speak at first. She felt a mixture of relief, gratitude, and awe. "Thank you," she finally managed to whisper. He nodded slightly, acknowledging her words without needing more. His focus remained on ensuring that the bikers were gone, that the street was truly safe before letting his attention fully return to her. The street was quieter now, the tension dissipating like mist in the morning sun. Lila could feel her racing heart begin to slow, her breathing returning to normal. The neon light of the store above her reflected in her eyes, casting a soft glow on her face. She realized how close she had come to danger, and how lucky she had been that someone had been there, unseen at first, watching and ready to protect her. The man finally stepped closer, giving her space but also showing that he was present, that she was no longer alone. "You did well," he said. "You stayed calm and kept moving." That was smart. Lila's eyes widened. Even in the midst of fear, she had made choices that mattered, choices that had helped her survive. The recognition from someone so commanding made her chest swell with a mix of pride and relief. She glanced around the street, ensuring that the bikers had truly gone. The engine's echoes faded into the distance, leaving only the soft hum of the city at night. The quiet was almost surreal after the chaos that had consumed the street just minutes before. Lila felt the weight of the night lifting slightly. She could finally breathe, finally move without the immediate fear of danger pressing down on her. The man stayed with her, walking her toward the lit corner of the street, making sure she was safe until she reached an area where she could be seen by others. "Are you okay?" he asked again, his voice calm, patient, and sincere. Lila nodded, finally finding her voice. "Yes, I think so. Thank you. I don't even know what to say." His presence alone had changed everything, and she realized how much courage it had taken for him to step in at the right moment. "You don't need to say anything," he replied. "Just stay aware and stay safe. You handled yourself well tonight." Lila felt a warmth in her chest, a combination of relief and respect. She had survived because of her awareness, her courage, and the help of someone who had been ready to act when the moment demanded it. The street no longer felt threatening. The night felt quieter, safer, and a little brighter. As she prepared to continue home, Lila realized that the events of the evening would stay with her forever. The fear she had faced, the courage she had shown, and the unexpected hero who had intervened would be part of her story for the rest of her life. She knew that moments like these changed people. They revealed inner strength, the kindness of strangers, and the truth that help can arrive when you least expect it. The man gave her one last nod, a gesture that conveyed both reassurance and respect. "Take care of yourself," he said. Lila nodded again, a small smile breaking across her face. She walked the remaining distance home with a new sense of confidence and awareness. She had faced fear and survived, and she had seen firsthand that sometimes courage and vigilance could be matched by the presence of someone willing to protect without hesitation. The bikers were gone. The street was calm, and Lila knew that even though the night had been terrifying, she had witnessed the difference one person could make in a dangerous situation. She would carry that memory forever. The fear, the hope, and the courage that had allowed her to survive. The night air felt different now. The fear that had pressed down on Lila earlier had eased, replaced with a mix of relief, exhaustion, and a growing sense of awe. The bikers were gone, their aggressive shouts fading into the distance, leaving only the quiet hum of the city streets. Lila's legs were sore, her heart still beating fast, but she felt a strange lightness as though the worst had passed. She took a deep breath, trying to let the tension slip away. But the events of the evening were still vivid in her mind, replaying like a scene she could not shake. The man who had intervened, the tall, commanding figure who had appeared so suddenly, walked beside her. His presence was reassuring, yet he maintained a calm distance, giving her space while ensuring she remained safe. Lila felt a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. She wanted to know more about him, why he had been there and how he had known to step in at exactly the right moment. Yet she also felt a quiet respect, understanding that some questions didn't need immediate answers. Some moments were meant to be experienced, not analyzed. "You're safe now," he said quietly, his voice carrying a warmth that contrasted with the intensity of the street just moments before. Lila nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. She couldn't find the right words to fully express what she felt. The fear she had endured was real, suffocating even. But the courage she had summoned and the help she had received made her realize how much the world could still hold unexpected kindness. The man glanced at her, his expression unreadable but gentle. "You did well," he continued. "You stayed alert. You didn't panic." That made all the difference. Lila's eyes widened slightly. She had felt so small, so powerless moments ago. But hearing his words reminded her that she had acted with thought and intention, not just fear. The realization brought a flicker of pride amid the relief. She had survived, yes, but she had survived with her courage intact. As they walked together toward a busier street where lights and people could be seen, Lila's mind wandered to the events that had led her here. She thought about her family, about her younger brother waiting at home, and about her mother who always worried about her safety. She imagined their relief if they knew she had made it through the night unharmed. That thought gave her a warm, grounding feeling, as though her courage and determination had created a ripple of hope beyond herself. The man kept a watchful eye on the streets, ensuring that the bikers were truly gone. Lila noticed the care in his movements, the patience in his voice, and the calm authority that seemed to surround him. He had not just intervened. He had done so with precision and control, protecting her without unnecessary force. It was a reminder that strength was not just physical. It was measured in judgment, timing, and presence. "I never even saw who was behind them," Lila said softly, still processing the events. Her voice carried a mixture of awe and disbelief. "I didn't know someone was following them, watching." The man gave a small nod, his expression serious. "Sometimes the right moment matters more than anything else. You stayed safe because you acted wisely, and I was in the right place at the right time. But your awareness, your courage, made it possible for me to help effectively." Lila's mind replayed every step, every decision she had made while the bikers circled her. She remembered how she had twisted away from their grabs, ducked into shadows, and used the narrow spaces between cars to her advantage. Each instinctive movement had mattered. Each choice had been critical. And now, looking back, she could see how her determination had combined with the timely intervention to create a moment of safety and relief.